everybody. Good evening and many warm wishes from us here in Pretoria. From wherever you are joining us this evening, I want to welcome you to our training today. I hope that this finds you in good health and ready to share this time with us. As you might have seen in your invite, today we are speaking about a healthy metabolism. And for those who are joining us maybe for the first time or the first few times, my name is Betty Oloo, a long-time Neolife distributor and director. Always very pleased to spend this time with you talking about our products and what we like to do, which is to help the people we come across making a positive difference in their lives, whether it is in terms of our products or in terms of our business opportunity. So I'm inviting you to settle down and to spend the next half an hour or 1 hour with us as we speak first about our metabolism, and then Pascal will speak about the business section. So just to introduce the topic, I'll be giving quite a bit of background information today, because I find that the topic of metabolism links many of the topics we normally talk about in our training sessions of the products, because many of the illnesses which people come to us with have to do with the metabolism. And also, as Neolife distributors, our first aim is to sustain health rather than to deal with illness. So we always try to, by our own example and by education, to let others know how they can maintain good health and spend the majority of their lifetime in the healthy zone rather than in the sick zone. And for this reason, a healthy metabolism is a very, very important issue. And so that is why I will have maybe a larger amount of background information. So just to define this, metabolism is the general term that we use to describe how energy and nutrients obtained from food are used in our bodies to do certain things. The first is to break down or recycle old and damaged tissues. So as our tissues grow, our cells grow old, our tissues will keep on being renewed by the making of new cells and the breaking down of the dead ones. So that is the first thing, to break down and recycle old and damaged tissue. Then the next thing that happens as a result of our metabolism is the building of new tissue for growth and for repair, because whatever is broken down or recycled is going to need repairing, or there will be a need for growth. And the third thing is to drive the many processes that maintain our life and our health. So those are the things that we use energy and the nutrients for in our bodies: to deal with old and damaged tissues, build and renew tissues, and at the same time maintain health through the various processes. So that means that when we speak about metabolism, we are not speaking of just one process. In fact, it comprises of very, very many processes which work together to maintain our life and our health. So what are the raw materials of metabolism? There are three. There is oxygen, which we obtain from the air, water, which we obtain from our water supplies, and nutrients. So these three raw materials ensure that we are able to produce energy for our different processes, the many ones that take part in our body. The next thing the raw materials ensure is that our tissues can grow and be repaired, and also we ensure that we have a means of storing energy for a time of scarcity, because we don't always know if we are going to be able to get what we need. So our body has evolved to actually store certain things in the form of energy. We'll come to that just now. So then, the quality of these raw materials is important. So we have said there are three of them. So the quality of the oxygen we are going to get will depend on the quality of air we breathe. And it will also depend on the efficiency and healthiness of our respiratory system. So our respiratory system is what helps us to access oxygen from the atmosphere. And good quality air is what ensures that we are getting enough oxygen from our atmospheric air. Then the water, we depend on good quality water in terms of purity, but also in terms of availability. I know that here on our continent, we still have very many people who do not have access to clean, usable water, healthy water, and this is often the cause of quite a number of illnesses. So for many of us who are fortunate to get good quality, pure water, it is an important raw material for our metabolism. Then the last one, which is the nutrients we get from our food. And this is where we are going to spend more time. So we normally describe food as a nutritious material which we consume in order to sustain life and growth. So the food is supposed to be nutritious, and we are supposed to consume it and then absorb it. So there are 4 steps when we think about our nutrients. The first is the food. We are speaking late. But it does not necessarily mean that what is on our plate is going to end up in our body. I think many of us who are parents have had times when we place in front of our children food which has been well prepared and thought about, and then maybe they don't want to eat this and they don't want to eat that and they prefer this or that. So the fact that food is on a plate does not necessarily mean that it is going to end up being eaten. That is why we go to the next step, which we call diet. So diet is the part that we actually eat. So if I give my child, let us say, a plate of rice and meat and vegetables, and maybe he only eats the rice or he only eats the meat, then it means that the diet did not contain everything that I had on the plate. Then after diet, which is what has been eaten, we have nutrients. So nutrients will come out of what has been digested and absorbed from the diet. So first we start with the food, which is on our plate. Then we go to our diet, which is what we eat out of our plate. And then we go to nutrients, which is what we are able to digest and absorb. And then from there is when we get to metabolism, which is what is absorbed and made available to our cells to use for metabolic processes. So which means that when we look at these raw materials, we need to think about how to optimize their quality as far as we are able. Then the quickest and easiest way to indicate for ourselves whether our metabolism is healthy is, first of all, there is one which is available, I think, to the majority of us, but it's not the only one, but it is the quickest. So this is the one I think I've mentioned before, taking the waist measurement and the height measurement. So our waist and our height. If the waist measurement is approximately half of our height, then there is no obvious metabolic issues. So it's the first indicator that maybe there is no trouble with our metabolism. But of course, this is simply the first step and the most obvious one and the easiest one for us to use. There are other measurements that can also make us more aware of how our metabolism is doing. It can be blood pressure. These days, there are many easily available blood pressure monitors that we can get maybe at a pharmacy, or some people can even buy them to keep at home, especially if you are concerned about your blood pressure. Then another measure that we use is the blood sugar. So there are tests that can be taken to check how our sugar metabolism is working, and that is usually the blood sugar test. So those are 3 of the things that can give us an indication of whether our metabolism is developing issues or is working okay. Then, since our bodies are made of complex systems, we have to be mindful about what we put into our bodies. So the first and most important question we have to answer about our food is not what is in it. the actual most important question today, this has not always been the case, the first and most important question nowadays is what has been done to our food? In former days, we simply harvested our food, whether it was something that grew on a farm or whether it was an animal that was slaughtered. We knew more or less what was in the food. But in this age where a lot of our food comes to us from factories and from distant places, we need to bring this thought to mind, trying to gauge what has been done to the food, because that is going to affect the nutrients that we get from it. So we can think, for example, what has been taken out of the food we are eating? Or what has been put into it? Are there maybe some chemical additives that have been put into it to make it last longer on the shelf? Have some parts of it been taken out to make it more palatable for us or to make it have a better appearance to attract us to buy it? So that is something we need to think about, what has been done to our food. This forms part of thinking about the quality of nutrients that we are getting. Then we remember, probably you have heard the saying, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. And I think when we think about our Neolife supplements, they are actually food concentrates, which means that we think of them as something that we take, and it's going to assist our body in maintaining good health. So the first thing we need to think about is the food we have chosen going to be beneficial to our health? Before we start thinking about, is it attractive, profitable, we need to think about whether it is going to actually be beneficial to our health. As the saying goes, our food should also be part of our medicine. You will remember from your high school biology probably that our foods are divided into a number of categories. You have the carbohydrates, which are the fuel foods. We get them from grains and roots and tubers, fruits, and some vegetables. Then we have proteins, which are the foods that are used in growth and repair. And we find them in meats from animals and fishes and so on, and also in certain plant parts, for example, seeds and nuts. And last but not least, we have the fats or lipids, which are the long-term storage foods that we can get also from both plant and animal sources. But also we can add there, we have vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, which also are an important food group, and they also play important roles in our health. We'll get them from various sources, including from vegetables, from fruits, nuts, and so on. So then, because in our times, food has become a cause for concern, and many of us, I think, as we go to the shops, we see that normally the foods have got a list of the ingredients and so on. It has become a bit of not so straightforward thing to buy and prepare our foods. So we need to think about the production of it, we need to think about storage, and we need to think about processing. And this is because our metabolic problems, when our metabolism starts not working very well, the root is usually found in the nutrients that we are obtaining in many cases. And we have things like type 2 diabetes, we have got autoimmune illnesses. All these can contribute to dysfunction in our metabolism. So let us look at some of these points about our food. I think the first point, which is processing, we spoke about it during the last Q&A, so I'll just quickly go over it. Just to say that over time, mankind has found ways of processing food, and processing food has got an important part to play. It can help the food become more palatable, it can make it more digestible, and it can make it more absorbable. So for example, the human beings found that when we roast meat or we cook meat, it's more palatable, and the digestion process is made easier. And also we kill certain harmful microbes that might be in the meat, for instance. Also, by processing food, we make it more durable and easier to transport. So if you can think of something like the grains that we rely on, we normally will harvest them and then transport them to the different places where they are needed. We also process food to make it more appetizing and also to be more attractive to the eye. But when you think about processing of food, we think about different things. So for instance, something like cooking is actually processing, but it is a minimal amount of processing. There are foods that we can eat without cooking at all. There are foods which are easier to digest when they are cooked. And then there are foods which are easier to digest if we first ferment them and then eat them. So if you think about something like certain kinds of beans, we need to soak them in advance and let the gas in them ease out, and they become easier for those of us who struggle with digesting beans. Maybe the process of soaking can make it easier. Then things like fermentation also are good for some people, such as myself. I find milk more palatable if it has been fermented, but struggle with fresh milk. Things like yogurt might be easier for some people to digest than fresh milk, and so on. So then, there are other ways of processing that is excessive. So we can speak about ultra-processed or excessively processed foods. These can become problematic. So for example, if we take sugar from cane or from sugar beets and refine it into crystalline sugar, then it becomes something that we can, our liver, which is what deals with toxic material, our liver can only handle a small amount of refined sugar. In fact, it is recommended that we don't add more than 2 tablespoons per day or 4 teaspoons per day of refined sugar to our diet. Other sources of sugar that we eat in an intact way, like fruits, this will be okay. But when we think about refined sugar, since it has already been processed so totally, it becomes not so easy for us to handle. And that is why one of the fast increasing illnesses that we now have is fatty liver disease and, of course, type 2 diabetes, because we are overloading or overtaxing our liver with too much added sugar in our diet. Because sometimes we ourselves may not be adding the sugar, but the sugar has already been added by a manufacturer. So if you think about something like fruit juice, which we always think about as something healthy, the problem is that fruit juice is highly refined fruit. It is far better to eat the fruit in its whole form than to drink it in the form of juice. Then the next I wanted to mention is natural foods. That is foods which have been minimally processed. So, for example, we may think about things like vegetables that can be eaten as salads or that can be steamed or cooked in other ways. This type of food, minimally processed, should make 80% of our diets, ideally, because then we only have about 20% of the other types of food. And this means that our system is not going to be overtaxed. So, for example, we can have a difficulty. For instance, if we buy flour that says that it is whole grain flour, we actually have no way of knowing what that means, because whole grain can have very many interpretations. The only way, in my opinion, we can know that we are eating whole grain is when we are actually eating whole grain. We can see the grain in front of us, that it is, we can see that it is familiar and we know it. Once it has been ground into flour, then unless we buy the grain and take it to a milling machine, then we have no real way of knowing whether we are eating whole grain flour or not. So as I've mentioned, excessive processing can make food harmful to our metabolism, because we overload the systems that deal with them. So then I want to mention quickly about drinks. The best drink for our metabolism is pure, clean water. And we hope that in very soon we shall all be able to have good, clean drinking water. Then there are other ways in which we can change the drink of water. maybe by making it into a tea or using it to make broth or soup and such like. These are all water-based, and since they do not have added sugar in them, as long as they do not have added sugar in them, they are healthy drinks for us to use. I know that there are people who don't like drinking just plain water, so maybe they would prefer it as tea. But as we have said, the amount of sugar that we can safely take is not a lot, which means it would be a good idea to get in the habit of not sugaring our drinks as far as possible. Then milk is also a good drink. For certain people, there are people for whom milk is a problem food and they cannot take it. There are people for whom dairy is a problem food. So for those who are able to tolerate milk, it's also a good drink. If you are not a person who can drink milk, then another a thing you need to be aware of is calcium. So milk is an important source of calcium, as well as small fish that can be eaten with their bones. So if you do not have access to fish and you do not like milk, it becomes very important to supplement for calcium because the other sources of calcium are rather limited. Okay, then we have certain food additives that are good for us. Things like herbs and spices and even salt are beneficial to us. Some of them help our digestion. Some of them improve the palatability of our food. So we add it as some of the important things that can be in our foods. Chemical additives can often be problematic because many of them are not actually food grade additives. And for that reason, we need to be careful about them, especially if we are sensitive. This is especially important for children who might be sensitive to certain colorants or preservatives that are added to food. As you grow up, you may be aware of the foods that are processed in a way that does not agree with you, and it's best to avoid them. Another important thing, the last point I wanted to make about food, is the timing of meals and the portion size. The frequency with which we eat is almost as important as the food that we eat to our metabolism. Because remember, every time we eat, we have to go through the process of digestion and absorption. So if we are in the habit of eating frequently, it means that the system is constantly at work. It is a good idea to restrict our eating to meal times and to go back to the old-fashioned way of eating 2 or 3 meals per day without snacks. Another problem to our metabolism of snacks is that many of them are processed and packaged to make them easy for us to eat on the go, but this means that we often don't know what is in them. Of course, something like a fruit can be a useful snack, but in general, we need to be in the habit of not eating continuously so as to give our system breaks in between meals. For children and for people who are maybe sick or elderly, we may need to rethink the meal timings because they may need to eat more frequently than healthy adults. And young children may need 1 or 2 snacks in between meals because the amount of food they can eat at a time is often very small. So portion size is also important. We need to eat food so that we are no longer hungry, but not so that we are so full that we have no space left. So our target is to eat to comfortable fullness, but not to be stuffed with food. And this can be an issue, especially if we are trying to maintain a healthy weight. And overeating or eating too much per meal can become quite habitual. So this is another point to take into account. Chewing food well and thoroughly is important because it is the first step in a good digestion. And remember, what we absorb depends on what we are able to digest. So chewing our food well helps to improve our digestion. Then I wanted to mention a few lifestyle points here that support a healthy metabolism. So the first is minimizing the excessively processed foods, and then avoiding foods which have chemical additives, Then the next is to eliminate and resolve stress. So stress can interfere with our metabolism. I think many of us who have maybe lived through periods of stress, you know that it can cause our stomach to be upset, or in some cases, it can cause to craving certain types of food, or make us eat without really thinking to look for consolation. Then we should minimize or eliminate substances which have already been identified as harmful. So things like alcohol should be taken with great caution. I think the highest tolerance should be two glasses of wine. I don't know the equivalent in beer, but again, here it's another one like sugar, where we need to be cautious. And just as a point of interest, to our liver, alcohol and sugar are the same thing. So for our children, when we give them sugar in large amounts, it is sort of just like giving them alcohol. So we need to think about the fact that our organ has got the organ of detox, the main organ of detox, which is the liver, does not differentiate alcohol and sugar. And that is why we can get fatty liver disease from drinking too much alcohol or taking too much sugar. So these days we find that children have got fatty liver disease as a result of too much sugar in their diet. And this is similar to what we only used to see in people who are heavy users of alcohol. So that is a point of interest. So we should protect our liver because it is an important organ of detox and many other things. And the last point of lifestyle is to feed our gut microbiome. The friendly microbes in our gut are very, very helpful to our metabolism. And so when we eat fiber in our diet, so for example, from leafy vegetables, from legumes, and so on, these are not for us, they are actually to feed our microbes. And when our microbes are healthy, they support our good health also. Now let us come to Neolife products and the important roles that our products play in supporting a healthy metabolism. So how do our products help in a healthy metabolism? Number one, they help to fill nutritional deficiencies that we may have. The deficiencies can be the result of food preferences. They can be the result of food quality, maybe soil quality, or even food availability. So for example, if we don't have access to fish, then something like omega-3 salmon oil can be a very important supplement for us. Then the next way in which our products help is in slowing down the aging process so that we do not age prematurely, and all the negative effects that the aging process can have are slowed down because our products supply the things that are needed to maintain a youthful body or metabolism, sorry. Then we also have got products which help with special needs. So for example, in terms of pregnancy or childhood, Neolife has got products which will help in these particular specific conditions. Then our products also helps in mitigating against hazards. Some of the hazards can be the result come from our occupation, and others can be from our environment. Of course, there are also hazards from bad choices and from illness. So our products can help in all these different aspects. So what are the basic products for a good metabolism? The first is our heavy-duty ProVitality, because as you know, ProVitality contains 4 supplements within it. And in addition to ProVitality, we add Neolife Shake. So Neolife Shake is our amino acid supplement that contains all the 22 essential amino acids that we require in a powder form, which we can easily mix into a shake that we can drink. And we can even use it to replace 1 meal per day or 2 meals per day, depending on preference. Then ProVitality will supply us with a number of supplements that are very important in metabolism. We have something like threonine, which is essential in a number of ways. First is to have healthy cell membranes. And a healthy cell membrane is going to be important in so very many ways, including the communication between our cells, the absorption of what we need from our digestive system and our circulatory system, Threonine is also going to help us to have healthy mitochondria. Mitochondria are our power-producing organelles. They are small or little organs within our cells. They are not actually organs. They are called organelles, as little organs, which are found in our cells, and that is where our cells make their energy. And they need to function very well, otherwise a number of problems issue from there. And threonine plays an important role in the health of our mitochondria. In addition to that, we have got, in ProVitality, we have got omega-3 salmon oil that plays also an important role in healthy cells, but also in resolving inflammation, which is another byproduct of a sick metabolism. And then we also have carotenoid complex. Carotenoid complex also plays an important role in healthy mitochondria. It plays an important role in the health of our cells, removing byproducts that can cause harm to our cells. And when these byproducts are removed, they go through a cell membrane, which means that it's all connected. Then lastly, we have multi in our ProVitality, and multi contains supplementary amounts of various vitamins and minerals. And that means that it is going to support us in filling up any gaps in our nutrition. The next one for our metabolism is botanical balance. So botanical balance is a herbal preparation that helps us to metabolize our carbohydrates well. And this is why we often recommend it for people who have issues to do with their sugar metabolism. This can be something like pre-diabetes or even type 2 diabetes itself. So botanical balance, a herbal preparation, very important for our metabolism, because when our sugar metabolism is not going well, it causes premature aging. It causes the destruction of important organs, for example, our kidneys, our eyes, and even our cell membranes can become stiffened and unresponsive to hormonal messages. So botanical balance, another very, very important help for our metabolism. Of course, this is especially important if we have got issues with our sugar or carbohydrate metabolism. But as I've said, for sugar itself, we need to keep it at a minimum. If there's one important thing we can do for our metabolism is minimizing the amount of added sugar in our diet. Then the third one is vitamin B complex. I also can mention here lipotropic adjunct, which contains most of the members of the B family. And these play an important role in energy production. They play an important role in the health of our membranes, and also in the making of blood, making of healthy blood, and so on. So vitamin B complex, very important member of the healthy metabolism group. Then to that, we can add vitamin C, which plays an important role in the healing of wounds and membranes and the formation of connective tissue. It also helps in the absorption of iron and in having a robust immune system. So vitamin C, therefore, will form part of our healthy metabolism. I think finally there I can add acidophilus or fiber tablets. So fiber tablets are, as I said, fiber is the food for our microbes, and acidophilus are seeds of microbes. So when we take this, we help to have a healthy gut. And remember that our gut is where our nutrients are processed and absorbed. And that means that we need a healthy environment there. And so this healthy microbiome is going to be playing an important role, not only in our digestion, but even in our immune system and other parts of our system. Then we can also add a few extras like chelated zinc and magnesium or CalMag. These minerals play important roles in many processes, so that can be an addition. Last but not least, Neolife has got supplements for little children, which are easy for them to chew and swallow. And for infant, we have got Liquivite, which is actually drinkable. So at every stage, Neolife can support a healthy metabolism. For our children, we have got Vita Squares, VitaGuard, and All-C. VitaSquare is an equivalent of Tri-N and Multi, and then VitaGuard is an equivalent of carotenoid complex, and the So for infants, we have Liquivite, which contains small amounts of everything, suitably formulated as a liquid, a syrup that the children, the little ones can drink. So I think that this is a very large topic, and as you have noticed, it covers very many of the topics we normally talk about. But I thought it would be a good thing to look at the whole picture of how metabolism works together in our bodies in order to ensure our good health. So I hope that you have found the information useful, and that you are going to consider how to position this product for yourself and for others. If we can at least start with ProVitality and New Life Shake, we are in a good situation. Certain times of the year, so for example, here in the southern hemisphere, we are going through a very cold period. I think also in Eastern Africa, they are having a cold season. During those times, we tend to have viral infections, and that would be a good time to step up with our vitamin C and our chelated zinc to help us protect ourselves from viral infections. We tend to take advantage of cold weather when they are able to spread around a lot faster. And so thank you very much for having spent the time. And before I hand you over to Pascal, let me wish you all the best, and we continue to accompany all of you in whatever is going on around. I know there is quite an amount of unrest here and there, but we entrust ourselves to God, and we keep on doing our best as far as we are able, always living in hope of better times to come. Thank you very much, and here is Pascal standing by to take you through the next session.